It's been a tough afternoon in the federal parliament for the Assistant Treasurer, Kelly O'Dwyer. It was fallout from her mistake last night in inadvertently letting an opposition amendment to government legislation pass through the House of Representatives. Labor used question time to mount a sustained attack. Ms O'Dwyer and the Prime Minister accused them of playing an adolescent game and scoring a cheap political point. From Canberra, Peter Donald reports.
In Parliament last night, the government accidentally condemned itself. It was the Assistant Treasurer, Kelly O'Dwyer, who failed to call a division when Labor moved an amendment to legislation she was responsible for. In question time this afternoon, the Shadow Finance Minister, Jim Chalmers, led the opposition's attack.
Was that because the Minister agrees the government has failed to close tax loopholes, or is it because the Minister is so incompetent that she pays no attention when revenue decisions are being made?
There was uproar as the minister tried to answer.
I'd like to thank the member for his question.
The minister will resume her seat.
Kelly O'Dwyer's defence, when she got to it, was that her mistake was only a procedural one with no real impact. The legislation itself passed with Labor's support.
I understand why the member opposite is very sensitive on this point, because it is very embarrassing. But let me say, what is even more embarrassing is the depth that the Labor Party has sunk to, the adolescent games that they continue to play in this Parliament that have no impact on the legislation.
Shadow Treasurer Chris Bowen tried to trip the minister up with a question on a detail of the legislation.
Given the bill that was eventually passed last night affects the taxation of dividend payments, Minister, what will be the change to the tax treatment of affected dividends?
The Assistant Treasurer spoke generally about the legislation that harmonises tax laws between Australia and Germany before turning it back on Labor.
I say to those opposite that if you want to actually get into cheap point scoring, that is the level.
Member for Isaacs.
That is the level to which Labor has actually sunk.
The Speaker, Tony Smith, steered Ms O'Dwyer back to the question.
The minister needs to direct herself to that or wind up her answer.
I'm happy to conclude my question.
Labor's Jim Chalmers was unrelenting.
Given the Minister for Revenue can't answer basic questions about her legislation, contradicts the Prime Minister on house prices and negative gearing, and was the original architect of the census disaster, can the Minister please advise a very interested House what other spectacular policy achievements lie ahead, or is this the high point of your brilliant career?
That question is out of order. I'm going to the next question.
The Labor leader Bill Shorten tried to pull it all together, putting a list of ministerial blunders to the Prime Minister.
What exactly does a minister have to do to get the sack in your government? And is the fact that you can't move on any of these people, the fact that they're still here, because your leadership is so unstable?
The Prime Minister has the call.
The honourable member's question reminds many of us how scant and sparse are the pleasures of opposition.
Malcolm Turnbull brushed Bill Shorten's question away.
Some games in the House, a pious amendment, his little win. Well, we won't begrudge him. His small pleasures, but we will get on with the job of governing for all Australians.
In the upper house, the former journalist, now Victorian Senator Darren Hinch, also had a win today. He's convinced his fellow senators to free up photography restrictions in the upper house. It comes after decades of campaigning by the Press Gallery. Long-time photographer Mike Bowers from Guardian Australia.
I'm a bit in shock, actually. 25 years we've been lobbying, flirting, cajoling, asking, pleading, begging, and getting banned from the Senate on a couple of occasions when we've actually broken the rules. So once the shock wears off, I think I'll be very happy to be able to go in and practice my craft as we have done in the reps now for a very long time.
Veteran Press Gallery photographer Mike Bowers ending